Good evening, welcome, good morning. It depends when you're watching this, that's down to you. I am joined by Gaz, and on the sofa, blended in very nicely, a Squawker Dave
we were prepared.
And Adam McCullough. Now, we're going to talk all things Manchester United and how the club is getting on at the moment, but this sort of doesn't have a name. So any suggestions from anybody? I'm looking at you, Martin. Nothing, brilliant. Adam?
Sam, Gaz, Dave and Adam. Chat.
Forgot your own name.
Chat about football.
Gaz?
And stuff.
I like Adam's idea.
Brilliant.
It rolls off the tongue.
What was your suggestion earlier?
Well, the first 3 months.
Rubbish,
it's phonetic alliteration.
I think it's awful, but it's all we've got. Welcome to the first 3 months. Let's start off sensibly talking about formations. As there has been lots of debate surrounding this. Dave, we've had 3-5-2s, we've had wing-backs, we've had diamonds, we've had 4-4-2s briefly. Do you think the club have now settled?
I think so. I think the 4-4-2 diamond's looking where Van Gaal is sort of trying to take the side, with Angel Di Maria playing that cracking role on the left, drifting wide, creating chances, creating goals. But I think the problem with the 3-5-2, potentially Van Gaal was set on it from the World Cup, Netherlands being really into that, and then translating that back over to Man United, who want to challenge at the top, might not quite work.
Okay, Adam, bringing on from what Dave just said about the players and the formations, do you think we were doing 3-5-2 at the beginning of the season because it fit the players, or because that's what Van Gaal wanted because of success at the World Cup?
I think it suited the players that we had at the time. But what I would say is, from my seat's quite high up as well at Old Trafford, so I get to see the formations like clearly on the pitch. And although we may start a game 4-1-2-1-2, sometimes Blind will drop, wing backs go forward, and then it's 3-5-2 again. Or it's very flexible, and I like that about the formation. It keeps our opposition guessing, it keeps defenders guessing, and it allows us to be flexible. When we get an opposition, if they've got one extra up top, we can just drop Blind back or whatever. So I like the way the formation is going at the moment. I don't think it's one fixed formation.
Okay, Gaz, how do you stand on this? Do you think this is the right thing for the players?
Yeah. Well, what Adam said then, I agree with. I mean, from where I was sitting in the last game, you saw Valencia sometimes sort of drifted back alongside Daley Blind, and then you see one of the strikers come and play on the wing just for like 10 minutes, and you could see that the opposition defenders were really struggling to mark the Van Persie who was coming down on the left and playing there for a bit.
Yeah.
Question I have, sorry to take your job already, it's only been 5 minutes, but Dave, do you think that we are going to stick with this 4-4-2 diamond type thing now, even when we get the centre halves fit that we've got out, or do you think he's going to switch?
I think we'll be really flexible in terms of who we're playing, like Adam's saying, that in terms of the three at the back, it didn't quite work. Man United played the 3-5-2 in 4 games this season. We got absolutely trounced by MK Dons, obviously. Conceded 2 goals, scored 7. It didn't really work. Lost 2 games, drawn 2 games. So it wasn't a very good system.
You're reading my notes again, Dave.
Sorry, mate. But with that, it's sort of like against the likes of Chelsea or against the likes of Man City, we're tactically flexible enough to go, okay, if we want to shut up shop, let's go 5 at the back or 3 at the back. The variations. I think that's a very positive thing for our side.
I love the way he said,
Gaz,
we
great
conceded
question, by the
4.
way.
Thanks.
We conceded 4, and then he goes, if we want to shut up shop, let's put 5 at the back again.
Right, Dave, another question for you, and then Adam, and then Gaz. This is the question. Do you think this formation, the 4-4-2 diamond, is designed to keep the players we've got happy, or because it's the best formation for these players?
I think that it is you're trying to get all these players into the side, but personally that might not be the right thing to go with. Van Gaal is the big believer of the 4-3-3. Going back to his Ajax days and that sort of thing, potentially might be the correct way when Man United need to go. The likes of Rooney, Van Persie and Falcao, can you get every one of those players in the same system, Mata as well, and compete at the top level of world football where every team under the sun plays one forward, one striker, and then they play the wingers and they play the attacking midfielders round, so the fluidity's there. Are we going the right way?
I feel like you're saying we're not.
Potentially not. I'd like to see a 4-3-3 with the likes of De Gea in goal. You've got Shaw, Rojo, Jones, Raphael, and you've got Blind and Herrera sitting, maybe Rooney ahead of him, and then the likes of Di Maria on one flank, Januzaj on the other, and Falcao up top. That's how I potentially could see the side really moving on, but then you're losing Rooney. Sorry, you're losing Van Persie, you're losing Mata.
I think they'd hate it. Gaz, where do you stand on this? Do you think this is the right formation for these players, or are we just fitting people in the team to make them happy?
I think that despite me being the youngest here, I think I'm sort of the most old-fashioned football fan, and I just think you play as many players.
We can't play Bobby Charlton.
Yeah, I think that you just play as many players in their actual best position as you can, and for me that's what we've done since we changed from the 5 at the back, and I feel like it's so much better to watch. We're just playing better football, and every player just looks happier where they are.
Apart from Januzaj. sat on the bench with Tommy. Adam, go on.
Part of me disagrees with that. I think we are playing a formation that Louis van Gaal wants us to play. Throughout his career, he's favoured the 4-3-3, and we had that discussion about, is it a diamond, is it a 4-3-3? It can be both.
I just told
you were right.
What it was, and you argued.
Kind of.
So.
But yeah, so, I mean, it's flexible. The problem for me is Rooney being captain. I know people are going to comment, I've defended Rooney a lot on my time in full-time Devils, and before that as well, and I think giving Rooney the captaincy, probably he didn't know we was going to get Falcao and all that. It's the wrong thing to do, because we're trying to squeeze, we're squeezing him into the number 10, and some games it will be the correct thing to do. But I think we're making Rooney happy more than the other players.
Okay, we will get on to the next section of this. I can't remember what Gaz called it. We'll talk about the players, we'll talk about Rooney versus Mata. Right now though, we're on David Moyes. There's been lots of comparisons between all the comparisons. Louis van Gaal, David Moyes.
There's been comparisons?
Constantly. Do we think they're fair? In my head it seems pointless, because they've overtaken completely different teams, completely different environments. Gaz, do you think it's fair? Do you think people are saying, well, so far Moyes did this, so far Van Gaal did this?
In a way, I guess some people maybe might feel sorry for David Moyes in a way, because he didn't get these players, did he?
No, he didn't.
Maybe if Moyes had these players, it would have been different.
Also,
but I very much doubt it. Well, the actual brand of football that we were playing, could you actually see Moyes getting the best out of a player like Di Maria?
I think...
You say these players. If David Moyes had this defence, we would be it would be worse than it was, man. We had Rio and Vidic at the back, and fair enough they're at the latter, the back end of their careers, but if he had this defence, Rojo and Blackett and all this, we would get absolutely mauled. The difference, the comparison between Louis van Gaal and David Moyes is not how they tactically. I think it's attitude and approach to the game. And I think David Moyes' approach and attitude was all wrong. Whilst he had some things that made him the right choice as Manchester United manager, and he had some of the values that our club has, he didn't have all of them. And Louis van Gaal, he has his faults, but he likes to play attacking football. He likes to bring youth through. And I think David Moyes was far too negative.
He gave Januzaj his debut.
I mean, could you imagine David Moyes saying something like...
Ignored me, didn't he?
So what? Januzaj, everyone could see Januzaj was going to be a world beater. And I think people are talking about Januzaj. We did that video about the Januzaj problem. But he wouldn't be here if he didn't think he could stay in Louis' team.
You can't just... someone gives a player a debut. You can't go, so what? He's good. Someone has to have the...
I'd have given Januzaj a debut.
Yeah, but you have to have the faith to do it. He still has credit for doing it. Right, let's talk about Louis van Gaal's player management. How's he getting on? I think he's getting the best out of everybody so far. Gaz.
Well, there's not been any negative comments as of yet, has there? And can you seriously imagine Louis van Gaal sitting the players down with a video of
Phil Jagielka
and just saying this is how you should play football? Can you imagine him taking them to the local park to set up set pieces? If that happened, allegedly that happened, but if that actually happened under David Moyes, can you imagine Louis van Gaal doing that type of thing?
No, but we can move on from Moyes now. Dave, in terms of player management, we know he's getting the best out of Di Maria, and he's been brave to give people like Tyler Blackett a game, but equally, we just mentioned Januzaj sitting on the bench most of the time. Mata, excellent performances, instantly on the bench the moment Rooney's available. Do you think this is good management?
I think it is, yeah. I think he's got a big squad, and the thing that's with United struggling that we've played 8 games so far. Other teams have been playing in Europe, the League Cup and whatever. The friendlies that have been chucked around, I think that'll be a good idea to just test everything out for next year where we want to compete again at the top level. And I think his man management's been good in terms of rotating, maybe not with Januzaj. Seeing Januzaj as a striker. Louis van Gaal obviously works with him every day, and he's worked with a lot of top talent, but I think Januzaj is a winger. He plays on the left, he plays on the right, that is it. Excellent.
Well, that is it. That is the first part of the, what's this called?
The first 3 months.
The first 3 months. The second part of this, we'll discuss the players. Anybody you've been disappointed with, or perhaps you've not seen the talent you expected?
I think Daly, this isn't like a massive thing. Hold on, let me explain my point, right?